In this video, everyone, it's another top 10 tips for newbie campervan and motorhome owners. Just for the record, I did say newbie, didn't I? Not nudie. That would be a whole different channel. Hello happy campers, how you all doing? Hope you're doing fine, hope you're enjoying your vans or you're looking forward to purchasing your first campervan or motorhome. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. We post regular content, well, basically to do with anything with campervans or motorhomes, whether it be tips, advice, how-to videos, product reviews, campsite reviews, places that we visit. We pretty much try to cover every subject that you can think of with the ownership experience of a campervan and motorhome. So if that sounds like your thing, why not use the QR code in the top corner of the screen now to subscribe to our channel, or look for a link at the end of the video, or just find the button on our channel page. Either way, subscribing to the channel, of course, is greatly appreciated, and it just helps us to continue to make more videos. Right, we've got top 10 to do again. I like these top 10s. I'm using my iPad today. I've stopped scribbling them down on a pad. So we'll start off with number 1 because that's where you normally start, isn't it? We'll talk about windscreen covers or insulation covers. There's always a big debate on the forums that I follow about using either internal or external covers. The bottom line is, for us, we would only ever recommend using an external cover. Now, when we had this Transporter T6, I loved my Transporter T6 campervan. We were new to it, and like everyone, we have to learn, even if it's learning the hard way. We bought a set of internal covers. Now, they do help because, of course, at the end of the day, they do help to insulate you while you're in your van, particularly, obviously, on these cold winter nights. But at the end of the day, they just really do help to build the condensation on the glass. There are 4 people in this van that are living, breathing, hopefully, and snoring, probably, in the van. So you can imagine when you wake up in the morning, well, the windows are just, they've basically got water running on the inside. So how do you eliminate it, or at least almost eliminate it? Well, it's definitely by using an external cover. Now, we use a tailor-made cover now. There are other manufacturers that make covers, including, and I've got noted here, silver screens and rainbow screens. Rainbow screens are the ones that offer those like funny faces or eyes on the front if you want to be a bit more fancy. And the prices range from sort of the mid-£100 to maybe around £300. If you want to avoid what I would call condensation plus, you want an external cover. Now, of course, on our motorhome, we've got Remus blinds, so we could, if we wanted to, just shut the blinds. But the problem is, when we're in the van overnight, all that breathing, well, it gets trapped between the glass and the blind. And when you open the blind in the morning, it looks like it's raining, but on the inside. Now, of course, you could purchase a window vac, but I'd rather use the logic of prevention rather than cure, so we would definitely recommend always using an external windscreen cover. Now, of course, they're not just there to help stop condensation in the van. They insulate the van in winter, and they help keep the van cool in summer. So you're really getting 2 for the price of 1 there. Now, we would recommend, and what we purchased for our van from TaylorMade, is what I think they call the longer windscreen cover. Now, what I mean by that is it covers the air vents that are on the outside of the van. It just gives a little bit more protection from the cold weather. Now, there's another thing to note if you do order external covers, and that is you will usually get asked whether or not the vehicle's got Remus blinds fitted. Now, I've been asked this question before, and it's a sensible question. We all have to learn. Why do they need to know if the vehicle's got Remus blinds? Well, if you look at a door on a Ducato, well, this is a Ducato, so we'll use that as an example. If you look at the door with Remus blinds, it's actually a thicker door because, of course, you've got all that plastic moulding and the blind on the inside of the door. And the outer cover, or the external cover, has got a flap that has to sit over the door and be on the inside of that door when you shut it. So you just need to know whether you've got Remus blinds fitted or not. Number 2 is how to keep warm in winter. So again, we're sticking with the winter theme for a minute. Well, you could dress like an Eskimo, of course. You could wear your favourite Christmas jumper. Or you could do some of the following. Firstly, close that recirculation system that you have on these vans and cars, close all the vents. Now, of course, that sounds obvious, I guess, but we're going to mention it anyway. Close all the vents off, but don't close the Remus blinds, because as we said, causes condensation. Number 3 is how to save money and wear and tear. Now again, these may sound obvious, they may not. Please bear with. So, if you're on a campsite and you've paid therefore to be on that campsite, and that campsite happens to have some really nice facilities, so of course we're talking a toilet block, showers, dishwashing area, etc. Well, use them, because you've paid for them. Ironically, when we first started using this motorhome, and I guess it was, I don't know, maybe because of the excitement that we actually had a fully working kitchen with hot water and our own bathroom, we kind of used it even when we was on a campsite. But you quickly think to yourself, well, why am I doing that? At the end of the day, if I'm using the facilities in the van, that's all nice and well. And maybe if the weather's really inclement, you don't want to step outside to go to a facilities block. But you are using your systems, which adds to wear and tear. It definitely means you're going to be refilling your fresh water tank more often. And it means you're going to be emptying your toilet cassette more often. So we would always say, if you're on a campsite and you're happy with the facilities, use them, including the dishwasher facilities. It all saves wear and tear on your van. And at the end of the day, you've paid for those facilities. Now, if you're buying a motorhome, particularly if you're buying a brand new motorhome, we purchased this one new in 2020. That salesman or saleswoman or salesperson, shall we say, they're going to want you to spend as much money as possible. It's in their interest at the end of the day. It's a business after all. That's all well and good, and you might be saying to yourself, well, it's our pride and joy. It's our memory maker. We're going to have lots of happy travels, which is a phrase I use all the time on this channel. And, of course, we would hope that you do. But there's 2 little issues with that. One, of course, is, well, you're spending more of your hard-earned money. But number 2, you're adding weight to the van. And adding weight to the van reduces the available payload. So our van, when it was new, had an MIRO. Now, I'm not going to bombard newbies with lots of different phrases, but MIRO basically means mass in running order. And it's the designated, or should we say specified weight that we were given on a certificate from Roller Team to confirm the weight of this vehicle with a driver, some fuel, etc. If you want to know more about weights, there is a video specifically for that, and there'll be a link to that video in the description below this video. Well, the massing running order of our 2020, I say that for a reason, and you'll see why in a second, Roller Team T-Line 590 was 2888 kilograms. However, wanted the automatic gearbox, that 9-speed automatic gearbox that cost almost £4,000. But, you know, it's a lovely gearbox, and it means you can just sit there and relax with the armrest down and take in the scenery as you drift along the country roads in this country and beyond. That automatic gearbox actually added weight, and it brought it up to, weight actually 33 kilograms in weight. So it brought the MIRO for this van to 2,921 kilos. Now, this van is rated at 3,500 kilos. So that what that means, of course, is there's 579 kilos of payload available. The stuff you want to take on holiday. Now, you might think 579 kilos is a lot, and it is quite a lot. If you're not a newbie campervan and motorhome owner, you might be watching this video and shouting at the screen saying, well, actually, it's not a lot. I've got over 1,000 kilos. I think the 500 plus is absolutely fine. However, let me give you an example, and this example is based on the identical van that we're sitting in now, but the new model, or should we say the 2022-2023 model. That new model comes with a few little extra bits as standard, but more importantly, that new model is now 3,172 kilos in weight when it leaves the factory. Now, that's a lot of numbers, of course, everyone, but what I'm trying to stress on this video, and it really is important, is our van with its 9-speed auto had 579, or has 579 kilograms of payload. The same van now on the 2022-23 model from Roller Team, if you choose the automatic option, is down to 297 kilos. Now, I think 297 kilos is really low. It's not a particularly good payload at all. And I think many people buying the new version of this van, they're going to be driving it overweight. Now, of course, you can have your motorhome up-plated. I'll give you the example. On this Fiat Ducato that we're sitting in now, if you're ordering it new, you can have it up-plated to 3,650 kilograms. Now, what up-plating means is it basically lifts an extra, it adds an extra 150 kilograms that you can use or you can put inside the van, because the van itself can cope with the extra weight. The only reason that the van is plated at 3,500 kilograms, and this is another important point, is that unless you pass your test in the UK before the 1st of January 1997, you would need to take a C1 license, or should I say a C1 test, to have a C1 license to drive a vehicle that is over 3,500 kilograms. Now, if you order your roller team brand new, they will upplate it for free. If you buy it second hand, there are companies out there, I'll put a link to one that we've not used, so I'm not recommending them, I'm just trying to help you out, everyone, and giving you a link to see for yourself, have a read, that will charge maybe £200–300 to upplate it for you. But there are things you need to consider with the upplating. First, of course, is your actual driving licence. Will you still be allowed to drive it? You need to consider axle limits, because again, without trying to overcomplicate this for newbies, upplating the van doesn't change the maximum weight you can have over any specific axle. You just need to bear that in mind, and those axle limits will be on the plate that's, I think, on this van in one of the door shuts. I think it's on the passenger side door shut, but either way, you would need to check the plate and make sure that you're not going over the limit. The increased weight limit may also cause you a problem with certain breakdown cover providers. You would need to check this with them. So, going back to the point, full circle. You're in your shiny showroom and you're looking at all this shiny new, I was going to say metal, but of course a lot of it isn't metal, is it? And this person, the salesperson, is trying to sell you the automatic gearbox, maybe an awning, really nice, maybe habitation aircon. Now, I looked at an example of an habitation aircon that you could have fitted, and it replaces the skylight over the kitchen in this van, and it weighed 28 kilograms. So again, you'd be adding 28 kilograms to the van. All of this adds weight to the vehicle, and most importantly, decreases the payload. So number 5, we touched on this on a previous how-to, or should I say mistakes, top tips, whichever video. We've touched on it before, but I wanted to go in a bit more detail. If you've never driven a campervan or a motorhome before, again, it might sound obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. Your van will not drive like a car. Pulling away at junctions, it's just not going to pull away as quick. Now, that may not be relevant. Well, it might be if you're trying to fit in with a gap, and by the time your vehicle starts moving, that gap's gone. Going around corners, these vehicles are obviously quite long. That rear wheel can be really easily caught on a curb, or even the offside wheel could be caught on a roundabout as you're going round. It's just really easy, as this dramatic reconstruction shows you. Oh! Narrow lanes versus mirrors. Oh, now, when I mentioned this in a previous video, I had just one comment. There was a very unhappy person, and they was basically telling me it was illegal to do what I'm about to say to you that we do, and I have no problem in saying I'll always do in such situations, and that is when you're going down a narrow lane. And in the UK at least, a narrow lane is normally easy to identify, partly because it looks narrow, but partly because we don't put white lines down the middle of the road if it's too narrow to warrant them. The problem with narrow lanes and a motorhome is, particularly motorhomes like the one we have, they have big sticky out ears in the form of mirrors. And although I know copy parts of these mirrors are probably under £200, I also know that the Fiat versions are probably nearer £500. You don't want to be losing one. To be honest, you don't want to lose one anyway. It's not just a cost, it's a whole inconvenience and waiting for the parts to arrive. So what we tend to do is, if it's a particularly narrow lane, I pull the driver's side mirror in. Shock horror. I'm not going to sit here and say whether that's legal or not. I am going to sit here and say, if anyone has a problem with that, fine. I don't. Low bridges and width restrictions. Now, we have a handy sticker. It's on the inside of the sun visor. It's also tucked at the top of the windscreen. So basically, whether it's sunny or not, I can always see it. That dimension sticker is really useful because it reminds me of the height of the vehicle. And remember, when we're talking the height, it's not just the height specified by the manufacturer. You've got to allow for anything that you've had fitted on top. It could be the hab aircon that we've already mentioned. It could be a TV aerial. It's just you need to allow for those because that won't be covered in the manufacturer's height numbers that they quote. And of course, as I say, the width is also needed. Having that sticker means if you're suddenly approaching that bridge on the road that you've never driven down before because, well, you're going away on holiday and you've just never driven down it before, just gives you that moment to just glance and go, I'll be fine. Now, we used to put a link to the stickers that we use, but unfortunately that company is no longer doing them. But they are easy to find on eBay if you just search for van size or van measurement stickers, decals, whatever. You'll be able to find them. If I can find one that's current, I'll put one in the link below the video. The problem is, in 3 years' time, you might be watching this video for the first time, and of course the link might have stopped working. You know what I'm saying. Number 6, everyone, is taking portable charging packs. There are many different charging packs available. But if you're intending to frequently use your vehicle off-grid, it's worth considering investing in one or more of these. Because, of course, your leisure battery, whilst it might be being topped up by a solar panel, particularly in winter, that top-up's not going to be so healthy for it, is it? It's not going to be supplying so much power to top up. And it's worth considering just the amount of items that are running off your leisure battery or batteries, including the water pump, the electric bed that we have in this van, a 12-volt TV, the lights that we have on, the USB sockets that we have in the habitation area. There are lots of things that will be using that leisure battery and therefore draining it, and every little helps. I'm sure there's a certain supermarket in the UK that used to use that phrase. Now, of course, you can just go for little portable packs, and they're really handy for charging phones, laptops, whatever it is that you might be taking with you. Or you might choose something more powerful, like a Jackery, which also comes with at least one 3-pin socket on it. Either option that you take, it's just worth doing that little bit extra, just to give you that extra power when you're off-grid. Number 7, and staying with power and off-grid, you could plan a long trip with a mixture of on-grid and off-grid. Why would you do that? Well, of course, it gives you the benefits of a cheaper holiday, because, of course, the off-grid ones tend to be cheaper than fully fledged campsites, of course. But if, as an example, it's not a hard and fast rule, but if, for example, you were going, say, 6 or 7 different places, you could balance your trip out with one off-grid, and then the next one being a fully kitted up, amenitied campsite. The beauty of that, of course, is if you do that, it basically means that whatever you're doing while off-grid, when you get to the next campsite, you know that you can top up the fresh water, you can sort out the toilet cassette, and you can plug into that lovely electric that's going to recharge, boost up your leisure battery or batteries. Just gives you that additional option, but still helps to reduce the cost of the overall holiday. What do you reckon? Now, some sites will allow you to do things like top up the fresh water and empty your toilet cassette for a fee, but of course it's probably best to plan ahead for those, just to make sure. And of course, if you have got the power banks that we've just mentioned, and then you obviously pull up at a campsite, well, you need to be plugging those power banks in and getting them charged ready for your next stay. Just a little cost-saving sort of logical tip there, everyone. Number 8, always check that all the habitation windows are closed before driving off. The habitation windows in this van, like most vans, they're only plastic. They're not designed to be open when driven. Now, it's very easy to forget to close, particularly if you've got one of them just on vent. It's very easy to drive off from campsite with the window still open, or at least slightly open. And if one of those gets damaged, or worse still, gets ripped off and then goes flying down the road, forgetting for a minute that that might cause damage to another vehicle. These things are not always readily available. They're not kind of off-the-shelf items, so you've got the double whammy of trying to protect your vehicle, because of course it's no longer protected from the elements, whilst also having to wait for replacement parts. It's just best to make sure they're shut. And whilst you're about to leave campsite, you need to just check everything else is shut. Cupboards, drawers, fridge door, the bathroom door, a bedroom door. We have left campsite before where we think the bathroom door, or we can't, you know, somebody said to me, you can't use the word bathroom, it's not a bathroom, because it doesn't have a bath or a bath. Our toilet or facilities door was not quite shut, although it looked shut, and of course, well, the first junction we stopped at, the door flew open, didn't it? So it's just worth checking that everything's closed. Number 9, rattles. Always comes up on the forums, this one, everyone. A van, well, they're just noisier by nature. Even a van that's not a camper van or motorhome will make a lot more noise, if only because there's a lot more space for that noise to travel around in. But if you're travelling in your camper van or motorhome, you basically got a house behind you, haven't you? You basically got a kitchen probably behind you as well, like we have. And one of the worst culprits for rattling, of course, is plates, cutlery, and anything to do with the oven. How can you stop these? Well, many different options. One, of course, is take less, but let's assume the stuff that's rattling around you want to have in your van. Tea towels are your best friend when it comes to rattles in the van, because at the end of the day, if you've got quite a few tea towels, why not? Because they're useful as tea towels. They can also be used to wrap around things like utensils or separate plates, etc. It'll stop all that rattling, but they still have their secondary use, or should I say their main use, when you pull up at camp. You could, of course, also buy something specifically to quieten certain things down. For instance, these, which I think are meant to be plate protectors or whatever. They're just things to pad the plates, etc. out. Now, those items and many items, just a quick note, are available in our Amazon storefront shop. Now, our Amazon storefront shop, a link to which is always below all of our videos, everyone, is just a collection of stuff that we have in our van that we think would be useful. Doesn't mean, of course, that you should buy everything from our Amazon storefront shop. Far from it. In fact, in this video and this video, we discussed just how much all that stuff can add up to, and I think between the two videos it comes to a shocking £1,600. Everyone will choose what they want to kit out in their van and what they prefer to take from home, and that's absolutely fine. But the Amazon storefront shop, if you click on the link, of course it only uses your Amazon. We don't see any personal details from yourselves. But if you do purchase anything using the link, we do get a small commission, and that small commission we are very grateful for. Thank you for checking it out. Number 10, which is the last one. Now, this one's going to divide opinion. Now, if you're a seasoned campervan or motorhome owner and you're just watching this, I don't know, for listening to this Brummy, whatever reason, you may disagree with what I'm about to say. Well, you can leave me that disagreement in the comments below and hopefully explain why you disagree rather than just simply say you disagree. But anyway, I stand by what I'm about to say, everyone. It's the subject of, do you keep the van warm in winter if you're not using it? So effectively a winter layup. Well, we don't. Now, we couldn't keep this van warm anyway because it's in a storage site and the storage site has no access to electricity. I have to say, however, that I would imagine most storage sites, if you read the terms and conditions, wouldn't allow the vehicle to be left anyway with any kind of heating left on, however it being powered. Because, well, an unattended heat source is undoubtedly a fire risk. We would never put any heating on in this van, even if it was parked outside our house, even if it was plugged into the electric. But why? Well, the van doesn't care if it's cold. We all know what it's like. The van's been sitting outside. Maybe we've had some snow on the ground. It's freezing cold. You've opened the hab door and you just feel that instant chill in the van. You feel it because you're living and breathing. The van doesn't care. There is nothing in this van that cares about being too cold, assuming, of course, that you've drained down your water tank and left your taps and the shower open. You don't want them to freeze over. The main thing to remember, particularly in a modern van, if you take this motorhome for example, there are loads of ventilation spots in this van. Loads. You won't see most of them, but I can assure you they're there. Those ventilation areas in the van are there to ventilate the van. Now, of course, they're there to cope with, in our case, 4 people living and breathing in the van, as we said earlier in the video. But they're basically there to allow the van to breathe. You don't need to be heating up the van. But then people will say, well, what about having a dehumidifier in the van? Or maybe moisture traps? Because maybe they've put moisture traps in their van and they've trapped a lot of moisture. Well, I'm going to read verbatim a little section from the Camping and Caravan Club, because I agree with this statement, and it basically says, in the long term, the motorhome's ventilation will mean you are simply trying to dehumidify the air surrounding the tourer. I agree. This is the problem. You can put your moisture traps down, you can put your dehumidifier in, but you're also trying to suck in from all that ventilation the moisture. It's not a problem. Now, in a previous video, we have shown you, this video, how to prepare your van for a winter layup. Please go and check that out. The most important thing I would say with any motorhome and campervan is make sure that you take the furnishings, so for instance this cushion that I'm sitting against now and the base of the cushion, away from the side walls of the van. Nothing at the sides. Nothing at the sides. And for the avoidance of doubt, not touching the panel at the side. Particularly for vans like ours with an elevating bed, drop the elevating bed down halfway. We also put the ladder that you use to climb onto that elevating bed underneath the mattress to allow a gap underneath the mattress. Like that. Hair. No hair. Why do we say take away the furnishings and anything from the sides of the van? Well, and the roof of the van, of course. Well, that's because they're going to be the real cold spots, and moisture and or condensation could become a problem because it will get trapped between that and the panel of the van. Whereas if you just place the cushions somewhere in the middle of the van, we tend to just loosely place them around and or on top of the table that I'm leaning on now. It aids the airflow, and airflow is basically all you need in a van. So we would not heat it, we would not dehumidify it. People also ask, should they put an exterior cover on the van? Now, I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here, everyone, because I do put covers on my classic cars at home and in the garages I rent, but they're only dust covers and the vehicles are already protected by a garage. But anyway, I digress. We wouldn't recommend putting a cover on your van during winter time. Now, of course, if you've got a specific issue with your van, you've got water ingress coming in from, say, the roof, for instance, you're going to put a cover on. You need to protect it until you can get that fixed. I get that. But putting a cover on a van that's got no known issues whatsoever is covering up and therefore blocking up a lot of that ventilation that we've just mentioned. You don't want to do that, because you are then risking condensation build up and damp and basically moisture in your van. Those ventilation areas need to breathe, and a cover will limit that. That's it. I think I've got condensation building up in this van now. It's all that hot air, me talking you to death. But joking aside, I hope that's been useful. If it has, please consider hitting the like button. Hitting that thumbs up button really does show your support, and it does help build the channel. If you're not subscribed, as we said at the beginning of the video, please consider subscribing. There'll be a link in a few moments at the end of the video. You can click on it. It's completely free. Doesn't oblige you to watch every video, of course, but it does show your support. And we just want to welcome you aboard. Thank you very much, everyone. If you are about to purchase that campervan or motorhome, we wish you all the best with it. If you're going to buy, in particular, a motorhome, but it does apply to campervans too, and you've not checked out yet another video that we've done, this one, which discusses the warranties on the top 20 campervan and motorhomes, which have got some really shocking clauses that you need to be aware of, because that salesperson's probably not going to tell you. Go and check it out. But for now, thanks very much for watching. See you on the next one. Can you see me now? If you're new to the channel, well, no. Or you can look for a link at the end of the video, or you can just look. Seat's collapsing. That didn't work, did it? Because I hit the button. We've gone from 5,790. I keep saying 5,000. Oh! Whoa! Oh dear. The things we do for YouTube.